What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Getting Technical, episode 29. We got Nick back for another ep.
What's up?
Sam here.
How's it going?
Zach's producing this one again. This is, in my opinion, I think it's been probably the best NBA playoffs in the past 10 years, maybe longer. I mean, the Bucks lose to the Heat. We haven't talked since that happened. The Knicks win. They were the lower seed. Then we got the Lakers won. I think the stat that came out was in the second round right now, there is a team in the combined East and West from every seed. So 1 through 8, there's a 1 seed, 2 seed, 3 seed, etc., all the way up to 8. So, I mean, I'm excited for pretty much all these second round matchups. What about you guys?
Yeah, I know for sure. I mean, I'm excited for them. I mean, as we're recording this right now, it obviously already got underway, but a lot of interesting stuff already happened. I mean, did you get? I actually really liked Giannis's post game presser. You saw the interaction he had with the interviewer.
Yeah, I like it as like I'm a youth basketball coach trying to show my team this type of thing, but as a guy who's trying to get that belt to be the next person to take the throne over LeBron, I don't think that it's a great thing to be saying. I just kind of want it to be like almost like WWE wrestling, kind of like be like, no, like I'm the best, and still kind of have that mentality. It's kind of the sportsmanship piece of it is cool, but
yeah, I think it's just a tough look considering he's was at least before that series ended the consensus best player in basketball.
Yeah.
And, if LeBron did something like that, even though he missed 2.5 games, whatever he missed, and he wasn't himself, it's just a bad look to lose to the 8 seed. We know the Heat are better than an 8 seed. They're returning pretty much every guy that was on the team last year that was a Jimmy Butler 3 away from going to the finals.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just a bad look. And that's kind of something I wanted to talk about. Do you guys think even though he was injured, do you think that the Bucks losing as the number 1 seed, a 59-win team, to the 8 seed, just old Kyle Lowry, Jimmy Butler was amazing, but do you think losing to that Heat team affects his legacy in any way?
No, I don't. And just to go based off of what he said, the same team doesn't win every single year. There's constantly new teams and new dynasties being built, and injuries happen, and it's really, you're not going to win every time. He said, I mean, the Bucks didn't win for 50 years. So does that mean every single season was a failure?
Yeah.
No, Jordan didn't win every year. Kobe, LeBron, Tim Duncan, Bird, Magic, they didn't win every single year, and you can't expect to win every single year. And to say that it was a failure, I mean, look, it's tough. You're a 1 seed. You really should be, at the very least, making it out of the first round. But things happen. Middleton wasn't the same this year. Drew really couldn't get it going. Giannis had a kind of bummed out with the injury and everything. But
and the free throws.
That free throws too. I mean, he's never really been a great shooter, and that's something
no.
he has to work on, and I'm sure he knows that. But in total, you really can't knock him too much just because of the injury, and he tried playing through it, and it didn't work out.
And I think, and to your point, it's also cleared up. I'm not kind of crapping on your take about that. I agree. When I saw the post game interview, the basketball fan in me, I guess the person who thinks Giannis is that guy and he's a great guy, it solidified that with that quote. It really made me feel like he's a good guy, that he's the kind of role model that you want everybody to be. But like I said before, I think the NBA's desperate for somebody to kind of take that title, take that next step as I'm the guy after LeBron. I think KD's kind of squandered that. Obviously, he's a little bit older on that side of it. I think Luka missing the playoffs this year was a big kind of blow to his legacy with that too. And I think Giannis was that dude. And then the fact that we saw him go out like that in the first round, I think is not being talked about a little, almost enough in a way. And I think it does kind of create a open race to be that next best player who's going to be on the throne, because I think you can kind of look back on that 2021 finals that he had with a little bit of kind of, hey, is this really the guy who we want, who is the best player in the league right now? And I think it kind of really makes you rethink everything.
But I don't think that anybody will be considered the best player in the league fully until LeBron's either out or clearly not playing up to the ability that we expect from him every single year, nobody's really going to solidify that spot. And especially players nowadays, I mean, Jokic, Embiid, Giannis, Doncic, all these guys, I mean, they're still relatively young. They're not 36, 37, 38 years old like how LeBron is and how Chris Paul is and that whole mid-2010s generation. They still have plenty of time to work through things. And to be honest, it's probably good for the NBA that there are so many options that you can consider to be the best player in the NBA, because it just creates so much parity, so much conversation, so much ability for the league to kind of grow. And the fact that all four of them are international guys.
Yeah.
And you think Giannis, Jokic, Embiid, and Doncic, the fact that they're all international guys and we all talk about them like this is just as good for the NBA as it would be if they were American.
Yeah, it is great. It's just like,
I know it's tough. You don't want to hear that as like the especially if you're a Bucks fan, you don't really want to hear that. But
I would be so mad if that was Brunson or Randall after a game.
Yeah, but if you're looking at it from an objective point of view, it's like he's right, and there's really no reason for people to get on him about it, because there's just so much. There's, like you said, there's steps to it.
Yeah, there is.
I think the one thing about it is how it's not just the fact that they lost, it's how they lost. Mm-hmm. Both those games, they blew leads in the fourth quarter. Jimmy Butler was the best player on the court, and especially when you look to the end of that Game 5, you're at home in Milwaukee. Giannis has 38 and 20, right? But then they have that one, I think it was in overtime. They had the jump ball, and then Giannis kind of gets the ball, and he like just immediately almost throws it out of bounds. Chris Middleton saves it because he doesn't want to shoot free throws. And it's like, it just gets to the point where it's like, I don't know, like, can someone who doesn't even want the ball at the end of the game be considered the best player in basketball? And it just kind of like, it's just weird. It's just like, to see that when it was live, whatever happened, like the fact that he got outdueled by Jimmy wanted all the smoke. He wanted to take every clutch shot, and then Giannis was kind of shying away from it because he was afraid to go to the free throw line. It's just a tough look for him. And I mean, he was injured, so it's like, I don't think that looking back in 5 years, people are going to talk about this series, really. But right now,
unless the Heat win, at all.
That's true. But
I don't. I honestly disagree with that. I think that in 5 years, they will be talking about it. And kind of going off on a conversation that we had like off air and like before everything was, think about in perspective. Think about the Memphis Grizzlies. And I don't kind of jump the gun on it, but with the Grizzlies, we're going to be talking about this Memphis Grizzlies season as if it's the biggest collapse in like Fergus sport franchise. Like, we're going to act as if Ja like fell from the heavens. We're going to act as if Dylan Brooks, who just turned into a wrestling heel, and it was just, we're going to overreact to this series. But they lost to their young team that lost to a veteran-laden Lakers team with the greatest player to play in the NBA, and we're going to talk about that series. But we're not going to talk enough about the Bucks just completely shitting the bed almost in this series.
Well, I think that all depends if the Grizzlies completely fall off within the next 5 years. I mean, then you'll see that as the turning point for them, and especially if Ja ends up leaving. I mean, they already came out and said they're not going to re-sign Dylan Brooks under any circumstances. So, I mean, that all really depends. And to be honest, AD played like the best defender in the world, which is what the Lakers expected from him when they signed him. Yeah. And this is what can happen when he plays like this and when he's healthy. I still
my only thing is them losing the series to the Lakers to me is less of a big deal than the Bucks losing to the Heat in like the grand scheme of the NBA, and how but the narrative's being played out that, oh my God, I cannot believe John Morant and Dylan Brooks and Jaren Jackson Jr.
It's because they were so loud about it. That's the problem.
So I think it was the easiest thing to do. I think the fact that the Bucks are the quietest, Budenholzer has the culture kind of wrapped around his finger over there. Giannis is a goofy superstar, he's not that alpha superstar. I think those are reasons why we're not going to talk about this Bucks thing. But in the grand scheme of basketball, like, this is big. Like, honestly, Bud, the head coach of the Bucks, we don't know if he's going to come back next year. He's a top 5. Like, honestly, he's a top 5 coach in the NBA. And for him to be on the hot seat, for Giannis to, the stat that's the craziest to me, he made the most free throws in a game in his career in that game. but he also missed 13. So he made the most free throws he ever did in one game with 10, but then missed 13 free throws in the same game, shot less than 50%. So like I think that those things should be more part of the narrative than, like I said, that the Grizzlies thing is. And I understand that the reasons why it is, but I just think that it was a kind of crippling blow to having that one superstar, and I think Giannis was the closest thing we had to it. And honestly, I think everybody assumed that he was just going to kind of take off and run with it.
Yeah, I think like the main reason why people are going to talk about the Grizzlies more is just because like NBA culture, NBA Twitter, online, like we like parody, we like things that are just funny, ironic. Like the Ja Morant, nah, I'm good in the West. It's like that meme where it's like anytime an attractive female reporter interviews any of these guys, they say like crazy shit. Like Jaylen Brown's like, I'm gonna win 7 titles in 8 years or something like that. They all end up saying something that's just so ridiculous. And then it's like Dylan Brooks. He just like kind of ran with it. They had that narrative that like we're the young team, we're up next. They hinted at being a dynasty, which is just insane. Mm-hmm. And then it's like they haven't been able to deliver. Like when you think about it, they lost to a team with LeBron James, one of the best players of all time, Anthony Davis, when healthy, one of the top 5 players in the league when he's healthy.
Yeah. And
a bunch of really good role players. And it's like, realistically, like, it's not crazy that they lost that series. The Lakers probably have more talent. Mm-hmm. But it's just the fact that they talked, and Dylan Brooks is like, yeah, LeBron's old. I don't respect anyone until they give me 40. And then they lose by 40 in the closeout game. And it's like, this shit's just so funny. And now it's like Dylan Brooks isn't coming back, and all the Shanghai Shark jokes are out. And it's like all anyone wants to talk about because it's just so funny. It's like, you guys really acted like you did something when you haven't. And then when you go and look at Giannis, he's won a title. They've won a championship. He's won 2 MVPs. Like he doesn't do all that talking, but he at least for the most part backs it up. He got hurt this series, and it just ended up being a shit show. But yeah, that Memphis. I mean, I actually saw this tweet. It says the Knicks are exactly what NBA media thinks the Memphis Grizzlies are: young and steadily improving with plenty of cap flexibility and tradable assets. Well-established culture built upon multiple seasons of defense and intensity and 0 off-the-court drama. And then it's like you look at the Grizzlies, and it's like they have Ja. Jaren Jackson Jr. is a great defender. I still have questions about his offense.
Yeah.
Then you go to Desmond Bane, he's played great in the playoffs, but he's another guy. Like, he had a quote where Rui Hachimura had that great game 1. And he was like, it's a 7-game series. Let's see what happens. And then, like, they compared the stats, and it's like Rui Hachimura had better stats throughout the series than Desmond Bane.
Yeah.
It's like, all they do is talk, and they don't back it up at all.
So, like, I understand. I think it's low-hanging fruit for the Grizzlies, like I mentioned. Like, I think it's easy to – the narratives are going to pick on the Grizzlies. As a Knicks fan, and this is going to be shocking to say, I know we're about to play Game 2 of the Eastern Conference semis. If I had to trade the future that the Knicks have in front of them versus the future that the Grizzlies have in front of them, I'm picking the Grizzlies like 10 times out of 10. I think realistically, the assets, the team, the young stars that they have there, the controllable assets.
It's just one star. I don't think Jaren Jackson Jr. is a star, bro. I just don't.
I think he has a little more offensive game that could come out, but still, regardless of how you feel about Jaren Jackson Jr., I do think that the Knicks. The Grizzlies have a good future. Now, I'm a Knicks fan, so bully up, like, Knicks tape. Like, let's not act like that. But I still think that the Grizzlies are, like, it was a young team that lost to a veteran team. We see it all the time. Like, we literally just saw it with the Kings losing to Golden State. The young up-and-coming team lost to the Golden State Warriors. But the only thing with that is the narrative slipped because the loud, obnoxious team was the Warriors, and the team that kind of kept their nose to the ground was the Kings. But we're not talking about De'Aaron Fox and Keegan Murray that way. We're talking about.
Well, Sabonis got ripped a lot.
Yes,
especially in Game 6.
Yes, but
he sucked.
Yes, yeah. But
and he's also, bro. He's a low key dirty player to Sabonis.
Oh, very dirty.
Yeah. You think so?
He's been doing this shit with Randall back and forth for years.
He's the dirty player, but he's the one that got stepped on.
Yeah, but I mean, what he did to Draymond, I mean, that shit was the funny thing was like when Draymond came out and he was like, "Yeah, I lost a lot of respect for Sabonis. He didn't come shake my hand."
Yeah.
And then everyone was like, "Bro, what?
Yeah,
You stomped the shit out of his chest."
I forgot how much I hated him when he was on the Pacers. Like
I couldn't stand. He's so frustrating.
But nonetheless, like I said, I do think that we should give Giannis and the Bucks a little bit more heat for overall how this series came out. And I think in 5 years from now, the fact that we're not talking about it means we're talking about the narratives of it all, and we're not talking about the hoop of it all.
It just means that he's in Milwaukee.
Yeah, but also I disagree.
This
with
is what
what
it
you
is. If
mentioned.
LeBron did that, it would be people would bring it up in 30 years. If LeBron did that.
Yes.
No.
But
I disagree. Hold on, real quick before we go to the next thing. I actually disagree. I think the Knicks have the better future, just because Jaylen Brown is obviously already locked up. They have all the picks and all the ammunition to go out and trade and make moves and acquire talent, or even just straight up draft talent. R.J. Barrett showed up at times. Other times he didn't show up. But I think just the playoff atmosphere and continuously playing in that kind of mode will kind of jumpstart him. Obviously, hopefully, we'll have to see what happens next season. But I would probably take if you pinned both lineups next to one another and you pick the top 10 players, I would say it's six Knicks to 4 Grizzlies. I think it's very close, but if you add the picks in on top of it that the Knicks have, I would probably take the Knicks future.
I agree. I would take the Knicks. And I'm so glass half empty with the Knicks. But realistically, Jalen is young. Julius is young. Who knows what they're going to do with him? RJ's 22. Quentin Grimes and Obi and IQ, they're like 23, all of them. Mm-hmm. They have like 7 firsts.
Obi's like 26.
No, he's not. He's like 24.
I think he played 4 years, right? And went to prep school.
No,
so
he didn't. He's not 26.
He's older.
How many years has he been on the team? 3, 4
This is
years?
his third year?
3?
Yeah. But also, it's like people want to talk about, Evan
So he's
Fournier's
24.
contract. Bro, he's got a player. He's got a team option next year. They're going to obviously not pick that up. He's going to be, yeah.
When was his birthday? Fucking last week?
Let's see. March 4th, 1998.
Yeah. Last month.
He's young as shit.
2 months ago.
But the thing is, like, the Knicks are going to not pick up that option for Fournier. He's going to become an expiring this year. I think Derrick Rose might also be an expiring. And it's like you got 7 firsts over the next, like, 4 years. A lot of young talent. Locked up point guard star. Randall is what he is, but he's still an asset and a solid player right now. And then it's like they have all the assets to go get that next guy.
Yeah.
Whenever that next guy becomes available. And now that they're building a little bit of a culture, there probably is a higher chance that a free agent does want to go there because they've built something that's respectable.
I have a tough time, and as a Knicks fan and as somebody who I completely agree with what you guys are saying about the assets that the Knicks have, like I think Ja is that like MVP caliber player.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that Ja
Memphis is top heavy their roster.
and I think having Ja who's an MVP caliber player, and honestly I think Triple J, which is a top 30 player in the league, I think I don't know if
Top
there's
50, I would say probably.
Definitely top 50. I mean, I would probably put him in the
I mean, he was
35 to 40 range.
He was
Well,
defensive
so,
player of the
based
year.
on the ringers, what they just came out with, Jalen Brunson was the 28th best player in the NBA according to their ranks.
He
I do
was
not
defensive-
think that Jaren Jackson Jr. is in the same tier as Jalen Brunson.
I agree offensively, but he was defensive player of the year.
I agree. He's a fantastic defender, but I just don't think he has that bag on
Brook
offense.
Lopez
yet.
was also almost defensive player of the year, and would we consider him a top player because he was a defensive player of the year candidate?
No. I'm not going to
I would take Brook Lopez offensively over Jaren Jackson Jr. too.
Yeah, and I'm not going to argue that I think that Jaren Jackson's just like next star. I don't think he is. I think he's has the potential to be. But my thing with the Knicks and why I can't get 100% on board with where you guys are is because if you had to ask me what my dream is, I think Luka to the Knicks in the next couple of years, completely destroying the front office in Dallas, and him being a Knick is my biggest hope. But there is a universe where I wake up this summer and Karl Anthony Towns gets traded for.
Don't say that,
and I
bro.
have to
Don't speak that into the universe.
And I have to, there's a
awful.
universe where that happens, and I don't know. If we make it to the Eastern Conference Finals and they think that we're 40+% from 3 shooting big away from a championship contender, there's a chance that he's on the team. where I think it puts us behind a little bit compared to where the Grizzlies are.
Yeah.
I think they're better off trading for Clint Capella than they are
A
Karl Anthony Towns.
$1,000,000.
No, like, bro, like the funny thing though is like I'm right here talking about I'm more optimistic about the Knicks than Nick. But at the same time, I think that Luka to the Knicks is literally never going to happen.
Yeah, I
Mark
don't think
Cuban
so
would
either.
never give the Knicks Luka because already he looks like an idiot from the Jalen Brunson shit.
Yeah.
Like
He's already
like,
a
bro,
Knick.
he's not gonna trade him to the Knicks. Like that's not happening.
So then, to me, they're going to yes, with all of this draft.
Devin
capital,
Booker has a better chance of becoming a Knick in the future than
That's true.
Luka.
I agree, but at the same time, does that make the Knicks like? Am I going to bank on that? Meanwhile,
No.
the Grizzlies, and to kind of circle back everything, the Grizzlies have their star. The Grizzlies have the person they can build around. Is he a number one?
They still need another one though.
100%, but they have one. I think we have the ancillary pieces, which is Brunson, RJ. I'm not going to say Randall because I think that he's going to have to go when we eventually get that guy because I don't think he can play as a second or third option. However, I think that the Grizzlies are going to have that advantage just because they have Ja, and having Ja is what the Knicks need, and the Grizzlies already have that, and they just got to build a team around him. Just kind of circle back on everything.
Overrated.
Okay.
No, I'm just playing. Leading into that, Warriors Lakers. Obviously, we're on the East Coast, so you got to stay up till the fucking ass crack of dawn to watch the rest of that game. But I saw a post on ESPN, I think it was yesterday, and it was basically like for Curry and LeBron. Like, if obviously it's not that they're not in the finals, but if either of those two guys can win another chip, what does that mean for their legacy? And I was thinking like if LeBron wins another chip, I think he's got one less than MJ, but he has him in every other statistical category. You can make a serious GOAT case for LeBron if he wins another chip.
I mean, I already think LeBron's the GOAT, so I mean, it really doesn't change much for me. If anything, it just solidifies it. But in terms of Curry, before the season, just after the finals last year, I had him, like when we first started the podcast, I had him like at 10 or just outside of 10. I forgot which one I did. But that would probably, if he got another chip and he was like, obviously he's going to be the main focal point almost every single time, he would probably hop close to the top 5. I mean, having all those championships, especially running through the West and being a 6th seed and not really having home court advantage probably throughout the finals, depending on who you end up playing. I mean, and the way he just closed out Game 7, scoring 50. I mean, he would easily pass Magic as the best point guard of all time, in my eyes. He's already right there on the border of it. He's already the best shooter of all time. And he would be one of the best playoff performers of all time.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that the LeBron Jordan is the worst barbershop talk like discussion that you can ever have.
I think it's the worst. I think it's just so tiring because it's been going on for the last decade.
But
It's
you
so
get
subjective.
But you get somebody in their mid 30s to 40s, they're going to say Jordan, and they're going to act like you don't know what you're talking about. When we just grew up with LeBron, and it's kind of an era thing, a part of it also. Like I don't think that a championship for the Lakers would do that. Honestly, the only thing I think a ring for LeBron this year would I think it would put him in there to be a Laker great. And I think right now, like LeBron has one of the weirder careers because obviously the Cleveland, Miami, and then as a Laker, I think that if he wins the championship for the Lakers, I think that you can kind of consider him in the pantheon of all these Laker greats. Obviously without it, not so much because even though he has the bubble championship, it is the bubble championship. But I do agree. I do think that for Curry, it does a lot more for his legacy. And realistically, I think that if he can win a ring and if he has any gas left in the tank to do anything in the next 5 years, he could be knocking on that LeBron is who had a better career, him or LeBron, like argument, which I guess I know is a kind of a tough thing to do because Curry kind of just shot up out of nowhere in the middle of the whole LeBron thing. But I think that there's a fair argument to be made that Curry's career, if they win a ring and possibly come close in the next coming years, that he might have had a better career than LeBron did, which is crazy to say.
Yeah, I think when it's all said and done, he'll be the best point guard of all time. I think some people already probably have him as that.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But
I think he's over. For me, he's over Magic. Granted, I didn't see Magic play, so it's tough for me to say that. But I honestly think he can get to number 3 with this if they win a ring this year.
If he wins another ring this year, bro, like The dude is just a wizard
Mm-hmm.
with the basketball. The stuff that he does almost doesn't even make sense. But yeah, I don't know. If he wins a ring, also like this would be what, his 5th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he had
If he wins a ring and
Two
then he
without
keeps
KD,
going
two
for a
with.
few years, bro, like he could really get up there in the conversation. Like you said, like top 3. Like
I think
there'd be a lot of people in this generation who probably start to consider him over LeBron. I think if he wins another one and he takes LeBron down in the process,
I agree.
I don't think they're gonna win the chip this year, but I just thought it was a cool conversation. Do you guys want to talk about the Celtics, Sixers?
Yeah. I mean,
Were you tuning into that game at all yesterday? I know you're.
like during the intermissions, I would click on, but
Yeah.
I mean, wasn't really watching too much. But I mean, I saw the highlights. I kept updated on my phone. I mean, obviously Harden had a wild game. Embiid was out. They said that he was probably going to be out, and then they're not sure if he's even going to be ready for Game 2. I mean, isn't he? Did they say he's going to play Game 2 yet?
I think they said he's most likely gonna miss the first 2 games. But
Yep.
now Philly kind of did what they needed to do without
Yeah,
him.
I mean
Yeah,
that
I
was
mean-
kind of embarrassing showing for Boston.
I would sit him if like after the last game because like there's no really not going back home tied with your best player coming back from injury is crazy.
Yeah.
But first, like I honestly think that Harden answered all the critics yesterday. Like that was one of the craziest things. I was watching the Ranger game just like you were, so clicking through it on intermissions and everything. But from what I watched, the highlights, and I tried to watch I watched the first half today while I had some time. He was just making everything. Like it was insane how well he was shooting the basketball yesterday.
Yeah.
And he answered a lot of those things that like in moments where he like faltered and he was like disappeared back when he was on the Rockets, I think he really kind of stepped up and became that guy.
Yeah, I mean, I saw another tweet I'm going to refer to. So last night, the Boston Celtics shot 59% from the field, 40% from 3, 94% from the line at home, and they lost to the Sixers without Joel Embiid.
That's crazy.
That's
What
insane.
was the final score? How much did they
They
lose
lost
by?
by 2, I
I think it was 115, 118. I think
they were down.
it was 3 maybe.
Philly was down 1, Harden hit the 3, and then I think that was it.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure they lost by 2. But, bro, like, I was wrong about James Harden. Like, Zach fucking called it at the beginning of the season. I thought that he was kind of washed. But, bro, that was vintage, bro. He was cooking. And it's like he's really changed his game. Like, he can do that now. But also, like, he's one of the best passers in the game. He's not really getting all the calls at the rim that he used to get.
Well, I don't know if you saw that. He did that all without fouls yesterday.
Yeah.
Which was the craziest part about it. Like, usually you'll hear Harden put up 45 points. You'll assume it's like 18
Yeah.
attempts from 18 free throws.
Yeah.
I think he only shot, I can
Like
look it up
4 or
right
5
now.
free throws.
He had 4 free throws, yeah. It's just crazy to me. The one thing that I saw, and like I said, this is me just kind of watching the game and thinking about it, like just basketball-wise, I don't understand. Like I saw in the first half of that game, and I didn't get to really see the second half. I just saw the closing minutes of it. Like the Celtics were attacking the basket without Joel Embiid there, which like for all his limitations or however you want to say he is offensively, or he's an annoying player to watch offensively, which he kind of is, even though he's the MVP, most likely. He's one of the best rim protectors in the league. And for them they were attacking the basket pretty aggressively in the first half. And I think they kind of just abandoned it the second half. And during crunch time, I mean, like I said, they still had obviously they had a great game, but I don't think that they really did a good job of maximizing on that. And also, Al Horford was out there, and I think he was guarding James Harden on that 3.
He was, yeah.
And which is, I don't think there was a big. I think that there was Harden, it was Harden, Niang, Harris. Like there was no big on the court, which is, I don't understand why Missoula even had him in there. It's a big coaching kind of thing, which first time I think Doc Rivers, I mean, that's disrespectful, but it's one of the first times Doc Rivers actually won a coaching battle in his career, I think, in the playoffs.
Right? Yeah.
But I mean, all in all, it was impressive to see what the Sixers did.
Yeah. It was the B-ball Paul effect. Paul Reed.
Yeah, Paul Reed.
You see that shit? Yeah. He has a deal with Barstool, and then he has shirts like B-ball Paul. I think that's his Twitter handle.
Yeah, it's funny. The one thing I will say though, and I cannot understand why it is. Did you guys see what Embiid was wearing on the sideline yesterday? That ripped up. It was neon blue or aqua blue Balenciaga hoodie. I do not understand when these guys in big games, and it happens every TNT game, every ESPN primetime game, where like it's a star who's not playing, and he's on the bench in the craziest, most outlandish outfit.
Well, last night was the Met Gala, so I think he was kind of paying homage to that for a little bit.
I don't know, man. Do you remember when Ben Simmons was not playing for like all those
I was
games?
at that game. I was
Ben-
at that game
Ben-
last year
Ben
in the
Simmons
playoffs.
is-
Ben Simmons was dressed like a fucking orange.
Yeah,
He had like an orange and purple fit on, looking like fucking Nickelodeon in the '90s or something.
It's crazy to me. I don't understand what these stylists are doing. Like, he's hurt. It's not a good reason why he's out.
They just let these NBA dudes will just pretty much wear whatever. I actually
Yeah,
saw.
I mean,
I
look at
found
what Russ has been doing.
Obi Toppin's stylist is on TikTok.
Yeah, I know.
And she like posts like the stuff that she fits him in, and his fits are alright.
You saw James Harden came in. I mean, it's
Yeah, I saw it. But, and I remember last year during the All-Star break, Jared Allen was at the All-Star like event, and he was like dressed like a normal person.
Yeah, like you bought
and like
the
he was
outfit
getting
at
like
Walmart.
roasted on Twitter, but it was like, dude was literally dressed like a normal human.
Yeah, like
It's like, what's wrong with them?
like a regular ass dude.
Are you looking
Yeah,
at
look, so I mean, look what. So
Shea always
Shea
wearing
went,
crazy
He went to
fits.
the Met Gala. Look what he was wearing, and then look at this James Harden video.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no.
Like they're just wearing wild stuff because
They have too
need
much
the
money.
business.
They don't know what to do.
I'm all for the culture. I definitely do think that the culture is a big piece of it. Hold up, I think we just gotta.
Look what Russ was wearing.
Oh my God,
What happened?
He's not playing.
Brunson's not playing.
You serious? They just said that he was fine.
No. No way, bro.
So I guess we could.
Yeah. I
We
mean,
could just finish for the night and get the fuck out of here.
that's
Go sob in our beds.
I mean, Joe
Wait,
Joe
false
Black.
alarm,
bro.
false alarm.
Come on, man. What the hell?
Joe,
Who did you read on?
brother, you can't be dropping Woj bombs like that. Yo, were you just trolling?
No, I was not.
Bro.
You went based off of something he texted you?
The Blackall curse.
Yo, that was fucking cold.
Why wouldn't you wait for like an ESPN
Now I'm fucking
update?
nervous. All right,
Guys
yo,
jumping the gun
the
for
next
Joe
game's coming on
Blackwell.
soon, so we want to wrap this up relatively soon. Last topic I think we should talk about, Nuggets. Jokic looks like the best player in the world right now.
Suns look trash.
He's actually playing like it. I mean, Embiid has kind of been up and down in the playoffs. He seems to always have a tear in his knee every playoffs now, Embiid. I'm pretty sure he had a tear last year as well. And that's what he has now. There's reports coming out that he has like another minor tear in his knee. So, not good at all.
What?
But
You said
Embiid.
Embiid.
Yes,
Yeah,
Embiid. But I think the crazy thing is, bro, KD, we all saw what he did last year against Boston. He was terrible. They got swept. Now they're down 2-0, and outside of him and Booker, like, that team sucks. Ayton is solid. Chris Paul's out with
Solid.
He's Look, I mean, he's supposed to be a star. He's a decent player.
Better than Mitch Rob.
Okay.
No.
Would you rather? Okay, no.
I'd rather Ayton over
Yeah, I'd
okay,
probably rather
listen.
Ayton.
Ayton over Mitch Rob. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But for the money, you get
Oh, yeah.
Hartenstein and Mitch Rob.
rather have them
or
two.
Ayton. I mean,
Ayton's overrated, but
Who's
at
their
the same
backup?
time-
Bismack Biyombo.
Yo,
Oh,
Bismack
yeah,
had some
rough.
moments with the Raptors back in the day.
Back
Was
in
he
the
a
day,
champion?
That was what, 5 years ago now?
I don't
Was he
think
on that
so.
team that
no,
won?
I think he was in Charlotte.
Yo, Bismack was the GOAT back in the day. Bro, if KD gets swept again in the playoffs, bro, like I don't know. A lot of people still have him in like the top like 3 conversation, bro. He's not in my top 3 even. He's like he's like 8
right now.
If he gets swept again in the playoffs, bro, it's a bad look for him.
No, 100%. I was asking if you were saying your top 3 all time or top
No,
3 right now.
no.
Okay.
KD's probably top 20 all time, right?
No,
yeah, for sure.
I think
But
Bill Simmons has him like top 15. I would put him more top 20.
Yeah, top
He
20 for
had-
sure. But I wouldn't say he was. You think he's top 3 right now? You think?
No,
Top
I
3
think some
player in the
people
league-
say he
player in
could
the league,
be.
I think
I would
so.
put him like 8. Like,
in the league.
bro, he can't stay
I
on
mean,
the
we were
court.
just talking about
he
Giannis,
underperforms
Jokic,
in the playoffs.
Embiid.
What has he done? I love
Luka.
Kevin Durant's game, but bro, what has he done outside of joining that Warriors squad?
No, I get
it's
it.
just like at this point, like bro, like it's just
MVP and
not,
injuries.
I do think he tried to LeBron too much. And like
Yeah.
we've seen the LeBron thing kind of go crazy, which led to the Lakers missing the playoffs, the Lakers being the joke and everything what they were for a little bit. I think he tried to do that too much. Like obviously the whole Brooklyn fiasco was a mess, but if we're talking ball, I think Durant is a top 3 player in the league without a doubt. I think he's just
Talent-wise, yeah,
scoring wise, defense wise.
But at some point, it has to results in the playoffs have to matter.
And I agree.
Yeah.
I think, and I do think that that's it is tough.
But Giannis didn't do him any favor. Like Giannis just lost to the 8th seed,
That's-
so
but
I can't say Giannis is second in the league and
They
then
also missed 2
critique
games.
KD. That's true.
but
This
but
team's
my-
also better than the Suns. Their team sucks outside of those two.
yeah, no, it's actually brutal. I mean, the reason they scored 80 points yesterday.
Yeah.
And like I don't understand, like they're taking like 30 mid-range shots each, him and Booker. Like they don't shoot threes. Like the team does not, like out of them all, like the whole NBA is shooting threes, and the Phoenix Suns are just deciding to take a whole bunch of long-range fall-away twos, which
It's a Chris Paul effect.
yes, it is a Chris Paul effect. And listen, with him also hurt, that also does like I got to put campaign out there,
Yeah, it's rough.
and
I like
it's a
campaign as
real-
a backup, but not as a starting
I mean, I
point
really
guard
even
in
like him as a
the
backup,
West
to be honest.
semifinals.
I agree.
I don't hate
know.
campaign, but yeah, not in the West semifinals as my starting point guard.
Yeah, no. And if they like, I don't know if they came out and said the severity of the groin injury, but that's nothing to mess around with, especially for
That's
a guy
what
his age.
I'm pretty sure that's what happened in that Rockets Warriors series a few years back when they probably would have won the chip that year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when they were up 3-1.
Yeah.
He's old too, so like
Yeah.
a groin injury for a guy that old is like you're not just playing through that the next game like that. You're probably out a game
Yeah,
at
that
least.
was,
I
that was
would
what
assume.
LeBron's first year he had that groin injury, with the second year.
Yeah.
I think it was the second
Yeah.
year
But
because
what-
he got the groin injury the second year on Christmas.
So expecting the Phoenix Suns lose this series, what is next for them, bro? Because they gave up a lot for KD, a lot of
They're
picks, a
fucked.
lot of
That's what's
swaps,
next.
all unprotected. McHale, Cam Thomas. Was there another player?
Cam
in there?
Johnson.
Cam Johnson, yeah,
Oh
not
shit,
Cam Thomas.
Cam Thomas is already on Brooklyn. Cam Johnson. Is there anyone else they gave up? Player?
I don't think so. I know.
But it's like what?
Yeah, no, I think
I
it
don't
was
know
2
their cap
players and, like, 4
situation.
pick
Maybe.
swaps.
Chris
Oh, it's
Paul-
shot.
It's fucked, right?
I
Like Chris
think-
Paul's under contract for like 2 more years, right?
I think so, and I think that they're gonna have to make a decision on Booker, and I think that it's gonna either be KD.
Wild overpay is what it's going to be.
But I mean, they're gonna have to. They're gonna have to figure out what they're gonna if they're gonna. I think KD has an option he can opt into. I obviously didn't come
KD's
prepared.
locked up.
But
He's
no,
locked
but I
up.
think he has an option that he can kind of go. That'll be an
mean,
extension that'll
there
pay
were-
him like a crazy amount. I think that he's one of the guys who's going to be making north of like $40 or $50 million a year each year going forward, which that's just going to eat up your cap. And I think that there's no way that the ceiling of that team is obviously the ceiling of the team is an NBA champion because they have 2 of the top 15 players in the league. But shout out Julian for that one. They are definitely like shot in terms of if they go home like in the next week or two, that I don't see a future for that really going on. And it's new owner syndrome because he went in there
Yeah.
like there's multiple reports. That trade wasn't being
Yeah, they didn't want to trade McHale.
they didn't want to trade Bridges, and it was the HBS buying the team to be like, all right, cool, all the chips are in. Which hindsight being 2020,
It's hard to blame someone for trading for KD, but like at the same time, who knows? Do you think that they're a blow it up candidate if they get swept?
I would.
I mean, they're joking on Twitter. People are like, yo, so where's KD's next team? He's just gonna
The
ask out
Nuggets.
again. He's just gonna keep asking out until he ends up on a team that actually wins a championship.
But like, what team is like? So now we see what the market is for.
Don't
Kevin
you regret
Durant.
not coming to the Knicks?
Oh, fuck that. No.
Thank God, no Kyrie. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
but like, what do you think the market is for him? Because now we've seen what a team is willing to pay for him. So obviously the Phoenix
I think
is
the
gonna
market
try and
is
get
less
everything.
now.
Exactly. That's what I'm
Much
saying.
less.
So Phoenix isn't going to get what they paid for him. He's going to be another year older, like you said. That option kicks in, so he's going to be getting paid north of $50 million.
Yeah.
I mean, other than a team like Portland, who feels like, oh, we could probably make a run now that Dame's healthy. If we add KD, we'll be able to do something. But I can't imagine another team going out and trading for maybe the Mavs.
Yeah, but then Lillard's making $60 million a year next year too. Like that's most of their cap at that point.
It kind of makes you think, like, if you look at the last like 3 massive trades, right? We got the Paul George trade where they traded Shea and all those picks. Did not work out. Looks bad for the Clippers now.
Yep.
Then last summer we got the Rudy Gobert 5 first. What a terrible trade. And now it's like the KD trade. It's Kevin Durant obviously, but another young star was the piece in McHale. All these picks attached to it, and now it's like they're looking at potentially getting swept in the second round. And it just like all these teams that give up all these assets for these guys, it just comes to bite them in the ass.
Yeah, the only one that I could really think of is the AD trade.
Yeah, the AD trade worked and you got to think outside of that bubble run, like the Lakers haven't been good.
Yeah, no, I know.
Like that was like with
but
LeBron.
New Orleans hasn't been good either, so
no.
like it didn't work for the other side.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that didn't
That's
work.
the point.
I think the main reason that didn't work is just because Zion just couldn't stay on the court. I think.
Well, Zion had nothing to do with it. He wasn't part
No,
of
I'm
the
saying
trade.
like based on everything that they did, like if Zion just stayed on the court and like they had all the assets that they acquired, there'd be a pretty good team.
I agree.
I mean, but like if you think of all the pieces they gave up, I mean, Josh Hart not there anymore. Julius Randle not there anymore. Lonzo not there anymore. I mean,
Was
Brandon
Julius
Ingram
in
was,
that trade?
huh?
Was Julius in that trade? He was, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, because Brandon Ingram was already. Oh no, Julius was already in New Orleans. Brandon Ingram was part of the trade.
Yeah.
Oh no, you're right. No, you're right.
Yeah, it was the other way around because Brandon Ingram was drafted
Yes.
after Julius.
Do you
Yes,
think
yes,
Julius was?
Do you think all those guys, all the guys the Lakers traded over the years and got rid of, like if they had D'Lo, like
Julius, Brandon Ingram,
Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram,
No.
Lonzo,
I know where you're going with this. No.
would they be a good team?
No, D'Lo is the worst point guard to have as
He
your
got rated as,
team.
like-
So, but like he would. You don't think he would have been? I mean, this is also assuming that Lonzo would have stayed healthy, but you
Yeah.
don't think D'Lo would have been able to transition to a 2 guard?
Did he do it with the best player to ever play basketball this season? I mean, I just have
Well, but they only had what 20 games to figure it out.
You're
I
right.
mean,
I'm also I used to love D'Lo's game when he was on Brooklyn. I don't know.
My-
He's one of those guys, bro. It's like he'll either win you the game or lose you the game. Like he's either gonna shoot 2 for 20, something like that, or he's just gonna go off and carry you to a win.
the most value D'Lo ever had was when he got picked over Kristaps. That was the most value he's ever had in the history of his career. Other than that, I think he's been a net negative, and
He had
Just
that
bad.
the Brooklyn year he was awesome.
yeah, so did Spencer Dinwiddie, and look how that worked out.
Yeah, well, Spencer Dinwiddie was absolutely awful in the first round of the playoffs.
I looked it up too. It's 4 years, 194 for KD through 25-26.
Yeah,
So almost $50 million a year
it's not good.
for the next 3 years, 3 years.
Yeah.
So I think it's tough. Like the Suns are in a tough spot. What they're gonna do with the contract situations, it's gonna be weird. I think they would be a blow it up candidate, but in a similar way that we saw in the NFL offseason this year, kind of correct itself with the guaranteed money for quarterbacks. I think that after all these astronomical trades we saw last offseason, it's going to correct itself a little bit as well too in the NBA. And I think that guys like Kat, guys like Trae Young, who if they're on the trading block this offseason, they're not going to get the returns that they would have got, that you would have assumed that they would have gotten. And I know I made that tongue-in-cheek joke about Kat being a Knick. Like, realistically, he could be, but I don't think that they command anything near what they got for what Gobert was given up for. And I think that it's going to kind of correct itself a little bit more. Now, to what extent, it's kind of we have to see. But I do think that you'll see if they do try to blow it up, it might not be worthwhile.
it also depends on, like you said, with the ownership. I mean, like what you said with Phoenix, their owner pushed the fucking trade through. Nobody else wanted to get rid of Mikal Bridges. And, I mean, James Dolan is notorious. I mean, we just saw with the Rangers. He's notorious for just saying, fuck it, get the trade done, get Patrick Kane here. Who's to say that he doesn't do it with the Knicks, too? Because he's actually more invested with the Knicks than he is with the Rangers.
Yeah.
If it's heavy picks and Booker's the guy, I think it makes sense. I think where things get really bad is when you end up giving a young good player like a Shea, or even the Jazz. They got Walker Kessler. He's arguably as good as Rudy Gobert in his rookie season. And obviously he's not in the level of Shea or Mikal, but it's like once you give, like let's say it was like RJ and like 6 first, like that's crazy.
Yeah.
But then, if it's kind of like, if it's like a Quentin Grimes and Evan Fournier's expiring and then it's like 3 or 4 firsts or something, I think that makes sense.
I agree. I agree with
What
that.
did Kevin Love go for? When he got traded from
Wiggins and
I think Wiggins, and I think at least
Anthony Bennett.
maybe. I
I
don't
think
know.
it- I think it was-
I think it was the first pick, so
It
I
was
think-
Wiggins, Bennett, and
I think it was another player or two. I think too, but like I mean, still,
but like that.
they had salary dump as well too.
Yeah, but that's another thing to it. Like Kevin Love was a perennial 20 and 10 guy, 24 and 12. Like
on the Timberwolves, bro.
And
He
Timberwolves,
was
he's
like
putting up-
26 and like 12.
He was Jokic.
But that's what I'm saying. Like he was an All Pro. He was one of the best power forwards in basketball. And it's crazy how far we've come.
Yeah.
From the smart moves, and like it made sense for the Timberwolves at the time. It wasn't working out with Kevin Love. They couldn't make it to the playoffs. They shipped him off and they got a first round pick out of it. But now like the deals are just getting ridiculous. It's like six first round picks and 2 players, and the players end up to be better than the player that you ended up giving away. I mean, I just don't understand where the concept comes in that these teams give up so much and they care so little about these first round picks.
I think it's a combination of there are a lot of smart GMs, and then there's a lot of desperate ones.
Yeah, and I think it's
And
also
the desperate ones always end up getting fleeced by the smart ones.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't think that I think we overrate first round picks too, because after the first 2 picks, maybe 3 or 4 picks this next year, like, are you gonna like hold on to that pick for you to have, like, do you think it's gonna be a franchise changing player? I don't necessarily think so.
It's because the kids come in too young. This one and done crap is just ruining the NBA. They're expecting these kids to come in and be LeBron and KD and just be a star automatically. Whereas you have people like Doncic, who's playing overseas, and he's playing up against these grown men, and he's refining his skills. And compared to college players who are playing fucking 13 games, they get bounced in the Sweet 16, and they go into the first overall pick because of the projection that they have.
Yeah, and I think I agree, and I think that's why you've seen like traction with things like obviously Wembanyama plays overseas, Scoot plays for the not the overtime elite, the G League Ignite. You have the overtime elite kind of getting in. You have the Thompson kids, the twins who are going to be picked in the lottery as well. I think that you see traction with that, which is why the one and done thing has gone off to the wayside. But still, like, I don't think I think that people overrate the draft picks that we have. Like in the NFL, like you can see like possibly a franchise changing guy going in the top 15 picks. Like realistically, like you can even after the quarterback drama, you can see that. In the NBA, it's 1, 2, and then if that, and then the rest are kind of like scrubs, kind of.
But you also rarely hear about it in the second round picks. I mean, there's obviously not as many rounds in the NBA draft as there is in the NFL because obviously
less players.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Brady, 6th round pick. You got Russell Wilson, who was a 3rd round pick, and just so on and so forth. There are guys who just come out of nowhere from these very low rounds, and they have a historic career, and they're better than the first overall pick that went in the same draft.
Yeah.
Where in the NBA, it's completely different. Like if you don't have the top 5 pick, or even a chance at the lottery, you might as well not even be there to make a pick on draft day.
Yeah. Which is why, like I said, like listen, if it's gonna be like if we traded RJ and like the next decade of picks to Dallas for Luka, I am signing up for that in a heartbeat because like I have never met a Knicks front office that I have that much confidence in them selecting all those first round picks.
Yeah,
if we're gonna get Luka
Knox.
Doncic, I rather have the sure thing. It's just, and I think it's just kind of how the NBA draft does work.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few Jokic second rounder, Brunson, Draymond Green, but it's
Jokic
rare.
is insane. Jokic is one of the craziest stories to ever happen. Like,
well, with that, kind of wrapping this up, do you guys think Jokic is the best player in the world right now?
See, this is what I'm saying.
Yes, I think so.
I
think he's consensusly been. I don't think LeBron's in anyone's conversation for the best.
No,
player
but I'm not
in the
even
world.
saying LeBron because
It's been Jokic and Giannis for the past, I would say, 2 years.
I think Embiid should be in that category a little bit more.
Season,
and people were saying the same thing about Luka too.
This year, I think the two people I think the thing with Jokic is he's won the back-to-back MVPs, and people are still afraid to give him that title
because he hasn't done it in the playoffs.
Now he's doing it in the playoffs, so
Well,
that's why I'm asking.
yeah,
I mean,
he's
he
done
had,
it for 6
didn't he have,
games.
what he had 37 and like 16 last time?
39 to 15, yeah.
39 and 15.
Yeah, so he's finally doing it. So I mean,
he
but
hasn't
think
been
it's
bad
still-
in the playoffs.
No, he hasn't been bad in the playoffs by any means. But I'm saying, I think we're so quick to jump the gun and put labels on people. I mean, I'm not going to give an answer on it just because there's no point. They could go ahead and lose the next 4 games, and he can look like dog shit.
They could. I just don't think it's jumping the gun with him because he's won back-to-back MVP. Like he's been on that tier.
I know he
People are
has.
just kind
but
of
I'm
afraid to
saying,
give him that title.
the titles and the labels now that we
Yeah.
give out to people because of
That's
one
true,
game
that's
or one
true.
series. It's just jumping the gun, and it's just classic media
Yeah.
propaganda shit that they put on TV.
Brunson and Randall both available to play today.
Nice. All right.
Thanks,
Last
Joby.
question to wrap this up. Where will Dylan Brooks play next year? Shanghai?
Cleveland Cavaliers.
Fucking Wolf Hill.
I think he's gonna end up on the Dallas Mavericks.
I hope he ends up on the Dallas Mavericks, and it's to create that
I know.
that Luka narrative. Just bring another piece in that's gonna piss Luka off.
Luka's got to play with Dylan Brooks and Kyrie.
Push him to the Knicks. Luka will come home. He has that T-shirt with the thumbs
my
up and the
God.
Mellow T-shirt. It's all coming to fruition. I'm telling you, it's
Fucking hilarious.
that's the only. If I take my
I can see
answer
him
back,
going to Charlotte.
I change my answer. After hearing that Rawls thinks that Dylan Brooks is going to go to the Mavericks, the Knicks have a brighter future than the Grizzlies.